Today we wanted to just start to talk about personal brand and how that assists with engagement and fulfillment. And I suspect we will stay on this topic depending on the interest level, but it seems like we build on a theme, but we're still talking about goal achievement. But in the end, being present while you achieve those goals. And a special welcome, obviously, to Alistaire as we host this together. Thank you, my friend, for doing this with me and
I greet you too,
hosting this. Oh, that is so disarming. So I'm going to not do a teaching on what personal branding is. I'm going to give a perspective, and hopefully we can have a conversation around this. I'm excited about what will develop. I'm excited about what Alistaire will now pick on and take further. Talking about who you are and talking specifically about your personal brand, it's a desire that we have, is that we want you to live a life that's authentically yours. And at the same time, while doing so, being fulfilled and also truthfully, and I emphasize truthfully, living a joyful life, driving a career, a business. Now, what tends to happen, and why we talk about this, is that we look around us and we benchmark, and we look at role models, we look at what they do that make them successful. And inadvertently, we want to emulate or we want to copy the life of others because they are successful. And therefore, in other words, we think that in order for us to succeed, achieve our goals, we need to be that person because that's what frames them. That's what brings them success. And we are saying, well, therefore, feeling fulfilled will never quite happen for you because you're trying to emulate, copy, role, or model somebody else, not in what they're doing as a strategy and this, what the recipes are to their success. No issue with that. But adopting a personality and a character, right, as some sort of a mantle for success. And what we are saying is, by all means, copy successful strategies. Of course, look at what's trending and so forth and apply them, but apply them through the filter of being authentically you. So for the sake of the conversation, I'll give it a definition, and I know each one of you probably sitting there with a definition of your own. And I want to position personal brand as quite simply just that which identifies and displays your uniqueness. In other words, what makes you special? And many times when, Alistair and I ask this question during coaching conversations, we see how people, not always sure what makes them unique and what makes them special, because I think there's a barrier that makes us feel, well, it's arrogant to express that which makes us unique, what makes us special, and therefore cannot articulate it always. But I just want to touch on a few things, and answer this particular question is, what is the essence of a personal brand? And I believe it really starts with an awareness of who you really are, as opposed to the you that you believe you are, and that you were taught that you are. So the questions that define you are not what I do and how I do it, but the key question is, who am I being? So how do you actually begin to consciously be you, right? And I've just discovered that most of this happens in what we would call a blind spot, meaning others see clearly who we are, and sometimes we just don't. We are completely unaware, and that's a place where we take things for granted. We don't see our own strengths and also weaknesses. So, how do you begin to answer this question? Who am I being? Because that sits at the very core of your personal brand. So, starting at some place, at least as an idea, and even if you're listening to this, make a note. The first place to start is identify the key descriptors of who you are. And once again, don't describe the roles you play, but really who you truly are. And I can guarantee you it doesn't always come to mind. And if you don't know, great, do the research. So you kind of ask your circle of influence 2 questions, right, in this manner. What about me is inspiring to you? And what do you believe are my greatest gift? Now, if you think these questions are very mundane and obvious, it always astounds me that when we go to funerals or events such as these, how people when they lose somebody are able to articulate, to describe specifically these things that they're going to be missing about the person. So at the memorial, and that's why they call it a memorial, these memories surface. But why not ask that question while you still can, while you can still hear the answer? And by the way, when we ask that question as in terms of what do you believe is my greatest gift, or what are my greatest gifts, it's unpacking it in that way, and I want to put it to you. And I know that when we get a response, it's like, you're a great cook, and you can do this well, but just to refine it a little bit, it's specifically those things that you do as an individual that just look so effortless, right? Those effortless things that we take for granted. We believe it's everybody can do them. It's just common sense. I didn't learn. I didn't go study to do this. Somehow I'm just able to do these things. And so when we're talking about greatest gifts, these are the things that we want feedback on. What looks particularly effortless when we do them? And as is want, we always have to prioritize. Is then, choose the 5 most important descriptors, right, from feedback that you've gotten, or really from the list that you've made for yourself. And then we say turn those into nouns. What I mean by that is that if somebody's described you as particularly loving, then you convert loving into love, or if you're honest, convert being honest into honesty. And then lastly, you turn these statements into I am love, I am honesty. And now that's just the first part. So with this awareness of who you now are, because literally making the statement I am, you've got to deliberately establish congruence, meaning you align your behavior with your I am statements. Not in some situations, in all situations. Where there are people and where there aren't any people. So we're looking for congruence, and then we're looking for consistency. Do this every day, every moment. Whether it's in a business, whether it's at your workplace, whether it is in life, in general, in relationships, be congruent and be consistent. And the result will be strong association and credibility of your uniqueness, because you will be different. there's that special part of you that will stand out, right? That can, so when we talk about coming back to then the definition of that uniqueness, when you are unique in a crowd of people, you stand out clearly. And that is your personal brand, which then leads to an authentic and an engaged life. So that is going to be me, Alistaire, and let's hand it over to any questions, comments, further clarifications. Quite happy to engage.
Thank you, Jacques. Amazing. Yeah, it's a it's the personal brand is something that I speak into, and it's one of the frameworks that I facilitate and also coach. So I love the fact that I can take someone through a process and allow them to understand their personal brand, or it could be a leadership brand, even doing that for an organization where they understand what their leadership brand is, not what does the logo say, but is what is it that you stand for. So it's really a topic that's very close to my heart, Jacques. And yes, you've done well. Not up to me to approve what you said and validate it, but let me say you've done well. Um, I'm tempted to add my own thoughts, but I'm really more interested in some of the thoughts from the others. Um, Faith, you joined us. Welcome here. Amazing conversation we had earlier. Faith, in the middle of the day. Carlo, it was good seeing you on Saturday with all the other guys. Renee, I'm hoping to see you one day. Any questions? Any comments?
Any questions? Any thoughts around this topic? Um, well, Alistair, while we're waiting for the hands to go up, I think your take on it will be really refreshing.
Yeah, well, allow me to rather ask questions,
Sure.
Jacques. And guys, we know that your silence does not mean you don't have comments and you don't have questions. It just means you're thinking of the best comment and the best question. So we'll give that space. So, Jacques, help me a little bit more with the congruency and the consistency, because
Mm.
they park so near each other that it could be confused, two of the two words, but they are
Mm-hmm.
distinctly different. What to use congruency and what to use consistency.
All right. So starting with congruency, it is literally walking your talk. When you are able to identify or describe who you are being, is to literally look at your behaviors, things like what am I doing, how am I doing those things, and lining them up with who you are being. So it's ensuring that there isn't a conflict between who you are being and what you are doing, how you're doing it. In other words, your behavior is that you
Mm-hmm.
know that is very much part of the authentic you. For argument's sake, Alistair, if I listen to how you present, how you deliver the calm, quiet, melodious sometimes, I think about water, river sounds, stream sounds. And so I look at that and I kind of go, I need to do a little bit more of that. However, in my association with what I'm aspiring to, I think I need to be you, right? However, every time I do that, I actually feel like an imposter,
Mm.
because I, I'm not being me, but it's I sense it. I can't really put my finger on the pulse of it, but I endeavor to do it, and it's always interesting. I believe that when you are doing out of a place of who you are being authentically, it feels effortless,
Yeah,
and that is the congruence I'm talking about here.
exactly. So if I can stay there before you go over to consistency. So I'm humbly inspired. I always feel inspired by other people who think that I'm inspiring and making a difference. So I'm humbly inspired that the way I do it um, is inspiring you. Let me just say that. But as you said, what it mustn't do is that you become me and you then end up speaking like me.
Hmm.
That my unique style, or let me turn it around because it sounds a little bit better. Your unique style, Jacques, shouldn't inspire me to do it like you. Your unique style should inspire the unique way I do it.
Oh, well put.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use somebody who's in this conversation, Faith. I know you wouldn't mind me mentioning your name. So Faith and I studied together, just an example. And we were at hostel together. And so we had opportunity to preach to our peers. And so one Sunday night, I shared this with Faith a couple of weeks ago. One Sunday night, I preached, and I kept on using the words, and I'm thankful for that. And then I say something, and I'm thankful for that. What that was is that one of the guys who ministered with me in our local church, he would often say that, and it sounded so impressive to me that I ended up saying the same. So now, Jacques, that's exactly the opposite of what we're saying.
Hmm.
And then Faith came to me afterwards. She does not remember, and it's the Faith that's on this conversation. She says to me, Alistair, love what you preach, but it's important. You will be a better speaker if you speak. What's the word I'm thinking? If you bring out your natural self, not somebody else's self, and that's the congruency that you're talking about,
Yes.
right? Let's talk about, so congruency is you always in character. Is that right? Uh, you no no no. Let me rephrase that. So in this moment that I interact with you, you are in character to yourself.
Hmm.
If we use
Correct.
a movie thing, let's talk
Hmm.
about consistency.
Yeah, practically meaning every day, in
Mm,
every interaction, you are in character. It's not today you are this character, tomorrow you are another character.
there we go.
And also, and we all know what pressure does. It squeezes what's on the inside of you. Wonderful toothpaste, but you've got to squeeze it to get the
Mm,
substance out. Now, if you're congruent, if under pressure, the character that is authentically you will remain. You won't become another person. I don't know how many of you have gone through this where somebody says, yeah, at home you this person, at work you this person, in church you that person, generally in public you're another person. It's like that is inconsistent
mm,
behavior. We are not talking about being more reserved when you're in public as opposed to more engaging when you're one on one with somebody. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being a different you, a different version of you, because the circumstances are different. So, consistency means it's the same you, the same congruent you with your being in every single circumstance. And the fact is, it then begins to lead to trust. People begin to trust and associate you. Um, with who you are, and see the difference you make. Because now, clearly, what you bring, your contribution, is then important because it is recognized and people can see how that can be dovetailed, slotted in, whatever you choose in terms of verb. But we've spoken about collaboration. It even helps with collaboration. But if you want to be chosen for something, many times when we start and we do anything, the association that people have of who we are is how consistently we are of a certain type, a certain character. And so when we present ourselves or we present what we do, and how many times don't we say, the adage is, don't do what I say, or you don't do what I say, you rather do what I do. You,
Do
you,
what you
you,
see me do.
yes. So when we're talking about, but you need to practice what you preach. It speaks into that. But if anybody has to describe any one of us, Alistair, what typifies you, Alistair, in all situations. Somebody needs to be able to describe that, because
Yeah.
brand strength is now not up to you. Brand strength is about the people that engage with you and associate with you in a certain way. And when you're consistent, people are able to describe you today, tomorrow, and next year. That
Yeah.
is who Alistair is. With confidence, because that's the other thing, is that when you're consistent, it builds confidence in others, confidence and trust in others in terms of who you are as a person.
Thank you, Jacques. Any comments, any questions, guys? Just click on the hand at the bottom of your screen. Um, so, what I appreciate about while the others are trying to speak, what I appreciate about so one of the questions I always ask when I take them through a leadership or a personal brand is actually one of the first questions is who is it that you admire and what are the qualities that you admire about the other person. So this is not a question about I want to be like someone else, but it's a question about when we look at someone else, what resonates with me in about that person that if I take it into my own space, it would be consistent or congruent with who I want to be and who I am. And so you've done well, Jacques, to say let's start with not what do I want to be, but who I am. Who is it that I am? Who, who's
There are two
I'm not.
questions,
Yeah.
um, from Shanaz and one from Carlo. Don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted, for the
Yeah.
sake
To
of
echo.
time, just to mention. So, first question I'm going to read from Shanaz. It's a good question. So, Alistair, you're going to answer. How do you work with people who are inconsistent?
Yeah. So my answer is very basic, but obviously, Shanaz, you work in that space a lot, in the trauma space. Um, and from a psychological perspective, Shanaz, you'll be able to answer it better. But my answer is um, the we cannot change someone else. And often there are two answers. You continue to display consistency yourself as an example to that other. The trust is that they will see your example of consistency. Um, and then the other one is because you can't change people, and you can't determine how they will change, if they will change, when they will change. Um, Sometimes we have to work on the skill to cope and to live with that person. Again, these are very extensive concepts on its own. But so first of all, I would say continue to be who you are as the consistent, that your brand is so consistent, so congruent and powerful that it serves as a stopping mechanism for others to say, why is she so impactful? And it comes down to, it's because she's congruent, she's consistent in what she does. And maybe I should think about that as well. And then the other skill is, often we have to learn to live with those people, because that's the real world.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
so as we need to work with them, Alistair, you're saying is it's actually leading by example.
Yeah.
Um, Shanaz, I don't know what your personality type is, but and this is where our uniqueness comes in. Is that um, if you work with somebody and you have influence over them. So number one, I mean, I fully subscribe to what Alistair just shared. If it's somebody that admires, respect you in particular, and you are then able to ask this question, with much love and obviously empathy, is that to start making them aware, number one, that they are inconsistent, because we are not always aware that we are being inconsistent. We think we're doing the best that we can. So to ask the question, this particular question, um, raise it with the person in different situations when they present themselves or they show up differently, is to say, but who are you being today? And in another occasion, but who are you being now? Because it seems like you're two different people. And just to begin to raise the awareness that your experience of that person is so different depending on what the circumstances are. And I mean, look, and nothing works. It's not a silver bullet where it just magically brings the results that you want. But I think leading from the front, and secondly, making the ones that you have influence over, have relationship with, aware that they are not being consistent is a starting point, at least, just from my perspective.
Or at
Uh,
least asking, again, yeah, in the same vein, explore with them who is it that they would like to be,
mm,
and then explore the option of, are you congruent with that currently? Are you in line with that? And are you consistently that? And
mm,
together in a friendship and in a relationship, you explore the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and then it's also an opportunity for you to then engage with that person as a partner to assist them in getting it sorted or getting
mm,
it on that journey. Yeah. So
mm.
it's you, as you said, you open up the conversation.
Carlo's got a take that says another way is to help them realize who they are, remind them who they are, and encourage them to live up to that image. People have a natural tendency towards acting in alignment with their identity. They might just have an identity crisis that's causing inconsistency. It's a great point, Carlo. Really great point.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Just
we'll
read
come back to your
Faith's.
question, Carlo. Yeah. Faith is saying, just a comment. Being consistent is key in my life. I stress it at church, at creche. It's reality.
It's
It's
really
really
key.
key to our success. And yes, Alistair, I'm laughing by myself for the preaching critique I made 30 years ago. Wow. As
Yeah.
long as
And
that.
it's and that still serves me well. And Shanaz, just that comment from Faith also answers your question about, so if Faith she really cared about me to make that. So she trusted
Mm.
the friendship to make that comment to me. So
Mm.
often when we have
Great
a
point.
tough conversation with somebody, behind that is Jacques, I trust you enough to
Mm.
have this conversation with you.
Mm.
If I don't trust you, I will not have this conversation with you.
Mm.
Um, Jacques, in terms of time, we are up. What I would propose is that quickly to Carlo's question, I don't necessarily see the difference between, again, it comes to congruency between your personal and your leadership brand. It really is kind of the same thing. If we explore it a little bit, it might manifest differently, but it will come down to the same statement. Um,
Mm.
and
Agreed.
I would have loved to maybe next time. I'm not making a promise as to the next topic because I have something else in my mind, Jacques. But one
Mm-hmm.
of the options we have for next time is to talk about a leadership brand,
Mm.
and
Yes.
I can take that. But
Sure.
I just wanted to bounce something off you as
Mm-hmm.
an option for the next time. But can we greet and say we appreciate everybody coming? Thank you for being congruent and consistent, as we see with some of you, even in your presence. And we again trust that today was helpful to you. And we wish you well till 2 weeks' time, and we'll come up with a good topic. But if you have a topic you would like us to deal with, please just WhatsApp one of us,
Mm.
and we'll be happy to see what we can do there. But for now,
Absolutely.
go well, and thank you, Jacques, for today. Well done.
Thank you, Alistair, as usual, and thank you, everyone. Until we see you again in 2 weeks' time. And reason 2 weeks' time, next week, Monday, is another public holiday.
Ah, yeah,
Enjoy.
eh? Keep well, man. Ciao for
Bye
now.
bye for
Bye now.
now.